Hello students, welcome to the online lecture series of St. Andrews Institute of Technology and Management Gurugram. Myself Sitendra Vats, Assistant Professor in ETC Department. In today's presentation, we will see about some addressing modes and input-output processor, which is a part of Unit 2nd of Unit 4th of LOC 2 in BCA second semester. So we have already seen the instruction format, that every instruction consists of a opcode and an operand, whereas in this operand is the data on which we need to operate on, and opcode will tell us about what kind of operation we need to perform on the data or the operand. So this data, that is the operand, can be located anywhere. It can be located in the CPU in the registers, or it can be located in the main memory. Okay, or we can also give operand as some constant value, that is the immediate data. So these how we would consider this data which is written in the instruction format, or these bits in the operand, that is we have some bits in the operands or some data. How the CPU will consider them, whether it will be considered as a direct data or the constant data, or it will be considered as the address of that data, that where is the data is located. Okay, so these things will be cleared by the addressing mode. Which addressing mode we are using, it will tell us about the type of operand, whether it is a direct data, or it is a data stored somewhere in the register memory, or it is a data stored somewhere in the accumulator, or it is the data in the stack organization. So all these things will be tell by addressing modes. So addressing mode specifies a rule for interpreting or modifying the address field of the instruction before the operand is actually referenced. So it will be used to reference the operand. So there are several addressing modes in the reduced instruction set computers or the complex instruction set computers. So in a RISC structure or the RISC architecture, we would be having 5 to 6 addressing modes, whereas in complex instruction set there are large number of addressing modes. So first is the implied mode. In this mode, the operand are specified implicitly in the definition of the instructions. So in this case, the data is implicit in the instruction itself. All register reference instructions that use an accumulator. So zero address instructions are implied mode instructions. Like if I say this is instruction clear A, that is it will clear the accumulator. So there is no register involved, no memory involved. It will simply clear the data of the accumulator. Or if I'll say INCA, that is increment A, so it will increment the data by 1 in the accumulator, that is whatever is stored in accumulator now will become AC plus 1. So in this, the operand is implied or implicit in the instruction itself. No separate uh, operand. We can see there is no separate operand which will specify the register's address or main memory address. It is implied in the instruction itself. So it is used in zero address instructions. Okay, then we have immediate modes. In this mode, the operand is specified in the instruction itself. They are useful for initializing registers to a constant value. The operand is equal to address field. No memory reference to fetch data is used in this. It is fast but has limited range. So if I'll say, if I have this add R1 hash 3, so in this case we will be adding whatever is in the register R1, we will add a constant value 3 to it. So it would be R1 plus 3. So in this case our operand is a constant value. So immediate mode we will be having the direct data in our instruction code. There will be no memory referencing in it. We will get the direct data. So these kind of modes are called immediate modes. Then the register mode, and the most important one. In this mode, operands are in the registers that resides within the CPU. So the operand will if we have, let's say, 15 registers, 16 registers from 0 to 15. So to represent these registers, I will need 4 bits in binary, that is 0000 to 4 times 1. So in register mode I will be having in the operand the address of these, any of these 16 registers. If I have 16 registers, and whatever will be the data stored in that, operand will operate on that. So let's say if I have load R1, so it will load the data in R1, or the accumulator will be loaded with the data of R1. So effective address in this case will be the address of the register. So this is the register mode. Then we will have register indirect mode. In this mode, the instruction specify a register in the CPU whose contents give the address of the operand in the memory. That is, the selected register contain the address of operand rather than the operand itself. So in this case, if I have several registers, so the operand I can have the values, like say if it is our 0th register and 16. So these these register will contain the memory address of the data. It can be there. If it is 200, it is 201, or so if it is 300. So the operand will, if it is written in operand, that is 200, or I can say if it is R1, that is if this is my register R1. So at the register, in the register I will get another address that will contain the address of some memory, which then contains the data. So in this we will be having data, but the register is specifying the memory address for the data again. So it is an indirect mode, register indirect mode, in which register is not carrying the data, but it is carrying the memory address again. So in this mode, the instruction is specify a register in the CPU whose content gives the address of the operand in memory. That is, the selected register contain the address of operand rather than the operand itself. Then we have auto increment and decrement. So in this mode, the register is incremented or decremented after its value is used to access memory. So the value will be auto incremented. That is, if I have used the location, that is if it was the address 200, then it will auto increment to 201. I need not to give it another time. So it will increment it like for, if I say for I is equal to 1 to 10. So if I perform a loop in our program, then it will be an example of auto increment or decrement mode. In direct address mode, In this mode, the effective address equal to the address part of the instruction. The operand resides in the memory. So in this case, the operand will be in the memory itself. So operand will give me the address of memory where my data will be stored. So operand will specify the address of the data directly. In indirect access mode, in this mode, the address field of instruction, that is the address field, gives the address where the effective address is stored in memory. So it will again indirect mode, we will get again in the memory address or the location of the data. So this is indirect address mode. Then in relative address mode, the content of the program counter is added to the address part of the instruction in order to obtain the effective address. So it is used in branch type instructions. It results in shorter address field. So program counter will be used in relative address mode to give the effective address of the instruction or the operand. In index addressing mode, in this mode, the content of an index register is added to the address part of the instruction to obtain effective address. So in this, index register would be used to get the effective address. Then we have base register addressing mode. In this mode, the content of base register is used to get the address part of the instructions. Okay. Then the effective address is defined as the memory address obtained from the computation dictated by given addressing mode. So effective address will depend on what addressing mode we are using in our instruction. So effective address would be equal to the addressing part of instruction plus content of CPU register. If we say that if in CPU register we get another memory location, then we need to go to that location to fetch our data. So effective address will depend on the addressing mode. Then the next topic is input output processor. So input output processor handles all of the interaction between the input output devices, that is the peripheral devices, and between the CPU. So whatever the interactions takes place between input output or peripheral devices and in the CPU, these will be taken care of by the input output process. So they communicate with input and output devices through separate address, data and control lines. So it will use separate address, data and control lines to communicate with the several devices. This provide an independent pathway for transfer of information between external devices and internal memory. So input output processor fetches and executes its own instructions independent of the CPU. So it will fetch its own instruction. It will have independent address, data and control lines. IOP is considered the slave processor, whereas the CPU is considered as the master processor. Instructions that are used from memory of input output processor are called commands, whereas for example the Intel 8089 input output processor has two independent units called channels. Intel 8086, which is a microprocessor, prepares a message in the memory which is read by 8089 IOP and carry out the operation. So it will interact with the CPU or the microprocessor. It has 50 basic instructions. The 8086 function as CPU, that is the 8086 microprocessor will function as CPU, whereas 8089 as the input output processor to interact with the input output devices and at the same time with the CPU. So it will act as an interface between the input output devices or peripheral devices and the CPU. So they share a common memory through multibus. The CPU communicates with the IOP by channel attention lines. The communication scheme consists of program selection called blocks. So we can see here in this block diagram the communication between the CPU and the IOP operations. So first the CPU send instruction to test input output processor path. Then the IOP transfer status word to memory location which is stored in the CPU. If status is okay, then this CPU sends start input output instruction to IOP. Here it will receive this instruction and it will access the input output program in the memory, whereas the CPU continue with some another program, and IOP will conduct input output transfers using direct memory access and prepares a status reports. So if then input output transfer completed, if the work is completed, that is the transfer is completed, then it will interrupt the CPU and sends a signal to the CPU that the input output transfer is completed, and then the CPU requests IOP status again, and then the IOP in the last transfer status word to memory location, and then CPU checks status word for current transfer. So this is how they will communicate with each other. So this is it for this video. Thank you very much.